This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
It's a special pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. We're getting you set for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Boston Bruins, game number 3 of the second round of the playoffs. The series has shifted north to Boston. Everybody's going to be in the lineup. There were some questions about Yanni Gourde because his wife had a brand new baby last night. Congratulations. All are doing well. Looking forward to it. It's going to be another interesting matchup. It's going to be another interesting game, and there's a lot to dive into as we look back on what we have learned in the previous 2 games, and then project forward to think about what we might see as we get set for game number 3 of the Bolts and the Bruins, set to face off shortly after 7 p.m. Eastern time at TD Garden. The series even at 1 apiece, and as is often the case when you're looking at an individual game, or you're looking at a series, or you're looking at team matchups, or just about anything, the numbers, the scores, the statistics, they do not tell you a complete story of what's taken place or what we might be able to expect in game number 3 of this series set to go tonight in Boston. Take a look back at the beginning of the series. After game number 1, a lopsided victory in favor of the Boston Bruins, and that had immediate, significant questions from a number of people thinking, oh my goodness, what are the Lightning going to do with that Boston Bruins big line? Oh my gosh, Pasternak and Bergeron and Marchand, what are they going to do with that big line? Braden Point, that line was the one that matched up against them. That was the matchup that Coach John Cooper wanted. Are they going to be able to keep them in check through the whole game? Is that going to be a problem? Do we need to change up the line matchups? Is there something else that we need to look at? Easy. Pull your foot back off the throttle just a little bit. If you were with us on our pregame show on Monday, as I said, the numbers didn't necessarily dictate a rash change of plans, and it sure looks like Coach John Cooper had the right idea of using that same line matchup. It kind of worked out okay in game number 2. Now, are they going to be able to have the same kind of success, be able to do the same kind of thing in game number 3 of that series? Is it going to be able to continue moving forward as the series goes along? It's going to get tougher now as the series moves to Boston, of course, because the last change is going to be for the Boston Bruins now, as the home team being on the road makes line matchups a little bit more difficult, but it can be accomplished. But I also don't think that you want to start obsessing about line matchups. You can't be looking at a team to the point where as soon as we see them get this line on, then we have to make a change. Whatever we're doing, whatever the circumstances are out on the ice, we have to make a change. We have to get that line matchup that we want. I think you can get a little too hung up on the line matchups. I think it disrupts the flow of your team. I think it disrupts your bench and can just unsettle players, and they won't play to their top capabilities if you become compulsive with matching lines up and down the lineup, especially in focus on one line in particular. It's kind of like having a lot of penalties near the start of a game, either for or against you. Either you've taken penalties or you're on the power play a number of times. If you have too many special team shifts early on in a game, it's tough to match up with a rhythm of the game. You don't develop a rhythm. Everybody talks about, well, in the first few minutes, we want to get our feet wet, we want to get settled, you want to get comfortable. You do that by running all 4 lines over the bench. Get everybody a shift or 2, get them into the game, get them feeling it. Just as we saw in game 1 of the series, Tampa came out blazing hot in the first period of game number 2. We also saw better execution, crisper, sharper plays made by the Lightning. Yanni Gourde rewards them with a power play goal midway through the first period. Tampa had the first 10 shots on goal before the Bruins got going. That was disruptive to Boston. Unfortunately, it also seemed to be a little disruptive to the Lightning because they got into some penalty trouble. The Bruins had a lengthy 5-on-3. They got a goal late in the first period from Charlie McAvoy, so you're even after 1. Tampa had the first 10 shots, but Boston had the next 8. You see how the momentum can shift quickly in a game. Things kind of tightened up in the second. Tyler Johnson got Tampa back on top. It stayed a 2-1 game into the third. And Tampa's looking okay, but at the same time, the Bruins are just kind of hanging around in a road game. Well, we got one win, and we're kind of hanging around in game number 2, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves, only to be down by 1 goal in the third period. Tampa catches a break when David Pastrnak is assessed double minor for high sticking. But when you actually look at the play, it was Victor Hedman's own stick that struck him in the face. A bit of a break. Both teams had him. It went and has gone that way through the postseason, and we'll dive a little bit more into the officiating and policing of series as we go forward in today's show. Tuukka Rask was great and killed off that 4-minute penalty rather. Tampa got a goal with 6 minutes left. It was a nice play on a turnover at the line, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are up 3-1. Boston gets one back. It's nail-biting time down to the end, and then Braden Point scores the final goal of the game. So what conclusions do you want to draw, and can we draw from the first couple of games in this series? There's some areas that you want to look at. There's always areas that coaches and players are hoping to improve on and get a little more focused on as you start to move forward in a series. First one, Point, Palat, Johnson, I think they're just fine. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think everything is okay with that line. And Braden Point, they made a big point about it on the television broadcast of the game, saying, well, he was feeling it. He wasn't happy after game number 1. I don't think anybody in the Lightning was happy after game number 1. Braden Point didn't have great numbers, but he came to play in the second, and I think the Lightning as a whole came to play better in the second game. They were sharper. They were more precise. They were on top of their game, especially in the early going, and found that to be disruptive for the Boston Bruins. Stayed close. I don't expect real lopsided games necessarily the rest of the way. I think games are going to be much tighter moving forward, and that's why you're going to have to focus on small little things, small little improvements to get you going in the right direction and to be successful. Braden Point, though, the most discussed because of the unflattering -5, had a nice bounce back, had 3 assists, and then, of course, had the empty net goal to seal it. Everybody else on that line had a good game as well. Palat and Johnson also look good. The immediate focus of attention for me with the Tampa Bay Lightning in game number 3 later on this evening against the Boston Bruins, and for the rest of the series going forward until we start to see some movement in the right direction, is the top line. It's the line of JT Miller, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov. That's going to be the focus for me and what I'm paying attention to. Whether or not we start to see more from them soon, I don't know. Does the shift in venue maybe have an impact? I guess it's possible. Do the line matchups change a little bit? I'm not really sure that's going to happen. Boston Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy said earlier today that he was comfortable with the Point versus Bergeron line matchup that we saw through much of games 1 and 2. Maybe that will continue. Maybe it shifts. Coaches aren't always fully 100% truthful at this time of year, we'll say. But there's a lot of focus on the Boston top line of Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand, and there's also going to be an awful lot more focus on Miller, Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov moving forward in this series. The big shooters, the big players, the top line have to start having an impact in this series. The sooner, the better from Tampa's perspective. In the first 2 games of this series, the top line, Miller, Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, 0 points. They are a combined -6 in the first 2 games. Now, much of that was accumulated in game number 1. Still, it wasn't a great game number 2 for this top line. That's got to be the focus of attention. That's the line that's got to get going. And they understand that. They're putting the pressure on themselves. They understand what's expected of them. But if you'd asked me prior to the start of the series if this would be the case, I'm sure that, oh yeah, there's not going to be any points. The line's going to be a -6, and the series is going to be split 1-1. You'd have been laughed out of the building. This can't continue, though. This is not a recipe for success for the Tampa Bay Lightning moving forward in this series against the Boston Bruins. There's been some speculation about injuries and whether or not Steve Stamkos in particular is feeling 100%, dealt with the injury near the end of the season. Injured or not, something's got to give. Something's got to happen with this line. Is Stamkos at 70%? Is he at 80%? I don't know. Injury information is guarded closer than the nuclear launch codes, especially at this time of year. But something's got to happen with that top line. There's got to be some production. In game number 2, this top line counted 5 shots on goal. They had a few more attempts as well that were missed. But my concern is that they're not even getting an extraordinary number of shots, not even getting an extraordinary number of chances. And I want to see them capitalizing on the power play. It was Yanni Gourde who scored the power play goal on Monday in the game 2 against the Boston Bruins. This is the kind of production, this is the kind of thing I want to see from the top line. More shots, more chances on the power play, sure, but also during 5-on-5 play. That's going to be vital for the success of the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series moving forward. Still a concern for me is having the Lightning play up to the elite level of skill and talent and execution that they are capable of, and doing it for longer periods of time. Just mentioned a couple of seconds ago, at the start of game number 2, just as they did in game number 1, came out blazing. They were hustling. They were pushing the play. They were aggressive and controlled the play and had the first 10 shots of the game. But then it kind of retracted a little bit, and the momentum shifted the other direction, and it was the Boston Bruins that had the next 8 shots in the game, and things started to even up. Sure, you're going to have ebbs and flows throughout the game, whenever it happens, but you want to be playing at that consistent, high tempo, high level of skill, talent, and execution for longer periods of time. You see it in bursts. Some of the bursts are getting a little bit longer. I want to see continued improvement in this area for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sure, it gets harder as you move through the postseason. These are good teams that you're playing, and I get that. And even after the top line on Boston, you have other talented and skilled players on the second and third lines as well. Pushing the pace, though, is Tampa's game. Don't want to get yourself into penalty trouble as they did in period number 1 and in game 2 against the Boston Bruins. That isn't a recipe for success either. Neither is getting drawn into an overly physical game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And as the series shifts back to Boston, you can obviously expect a much more pro-Bruins crowd, and that level of excitement and enthusiasm, I also suspect, will generate a little more physical play. Don't get too hung up on it. Don't get too drawn into trying to match hit for hit. That's not Tampa's game. That's not their recipe for success. That will only work against you. Physical when you need to, getting to the front of the net, tying up players so they can't receive a pass, taking them out of the play, but it's not about the big, hard, physical hits. Victor Hedman has only one assist in each of the first 2 games. The 2 game 1 goals were scored by Dan Girardi and Mikhail Sergachev, which we'll take, but again, I'm not overly concerned about offensive output from Hedman and the rest of the defense. If you get it, it's great. Moving the puck and getting it up to the forwards who can put the puck in the net and need to execute consistently to score goals, that's where I want to see the emphasis. An assist here and there, I'm not relying on them, and I'm not necessarily looking for them to score goals, especially in the case of Victor Hedman. A little offensive output, chipping in here and there would be nice, but it's not necessarily vital to the success of the team. He's been logging big minutes in the first 2 games. In game number 1, played 24.5 minutes. It was 25.5 minutes in game number 2, and it would not surprise me, especially if Tampa's ahead in game 3, to see that go up even further. You're protecting a lead, and sure, Ryan McDonagh was brought in at the trade deadline to help bolster the defense core, help shoulder some of the responsibilities, and take some of the heat off Victor Hedman, and he has. And it's been great that he's been playing reasonable amounts of times. He was just shy of 21 minutes in game number 2, but Victor Hedman is still your guy. He is still your guy, and that's who you want out on the ice at all important times. Goaltending, I think, has been good. I think Andrei Vasilevsky has given you everything that you could reasonably ask for so far in this series. I'm not worried about the number of goals that went in game number 1, and I'm not putting that on Vasilevsky. I think he's been really good. I think there's a couple of times that he's made stops and he's looked a little uncomfortable. I don't want to say woozy, but I think a little startled after receiving a couple of shots, but I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's been good. We saw in game number 2 a concerted effort on the forecheck by Tampa. As I mentioned, it disrupts the Boston Bruins. More of that will create more opportunities for Tampa moving forward. Boston coughed the puck up, especially early on in game number 2. Heavy forecheck, be aggressive. They cough the puck up. It creates opportunities. Then you have to capitalize. And especially, as I said, I want to see some production out of that top line. This same kind of effort is going to be vital for their success. And it also gives you a little bit of an easier time on defense. If you're playing more in the offensive zone and not letting the Bruins come across the blue line and take control of the neutral zone and create speed through the neutral zone to generate chances on the rush, you are making your job a little bit easier. Boston, as I mentioned from the comments earlier today from head coach Bruce Cassidy, seems okay with the Braden Point line against the Patrice Bergeron line. I'm not surprised to hear Bruce Cassidy suggest this. It worked out okay in game number 1. Game number 2 was much closer. And right into the third period, Boston was kind of hanging around, even though at times it was a 2-goal lead. This is going to be worth watching in game number 3 to see if there are matchups that are looked for from the Boston Bruins on their side. If they want a specific matchup, whether it's the Braden Point line and Patrice Bergeron line, or if it's another line further down. Maybe they want to try to get DeBrusk, Krejci, and Rick Nash against the top line for Tampa. We'll get a handle on that once the game gets going. But it's been a good series so far. In fact, all 4 of the second round series have been really good, really fun, really interesting. And I want to look at the late game that's coming up between the Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks. Oh, that has been an interesting series. Great atmosphere in those 2 buildings. Of course, you had the big pre-show from Vegas, and the one in San Jose, kind of cool with the lights and everything, but it wasn't Vegas with the night, slaying the guy who's holding the opponent's flag. And there is an awful lot to get into with the other 2 series as well that took place on Tuesday night. Washington and Pittsburgh. The Caps lead that series 2-1. And oh my, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in that one. Winnipeg and Nashville. Yeah, an extremely interesting game for a number of different reasons. We'll dive into that as well. Some other news around the National Hockey League we'll touch on as well. Squeeze in as much as we can as the hour continues and getting you set for the Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins game number 3 in Boston later tonight. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. If you want comments or questions you want to shoot by on our Facebook page as well, you can drop them there and we'll get to your questions. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the special pregame edition, continues right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design, Industrial Design, Mechanical Engineering and Design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Special pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues getting you set for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. Game number 3 of the series. Shortly after 7 p.m. Eastern, they will face off tonight. The series even at 1 apiece. There's lots of other interesting stories going on as well in the other 3 playoff series. A couple other little league news items that we'll dive into as well. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. We'll have the projected lineups for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. Boston does have one change for sure in their lineup, and we'll look at the other game this evening as well. Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks. That's the late game on Wednesday. Oh, yeah. Last 2 contests, boy, they've played some overtime in this series. We talked about this on Monday, that overtime seems to be the thing out west. They seem to be having more of it, and they went to overtime in game number 3 of the Sharks and Vegas Golden Knights series as well. William Karlsson, if you prefer, Wild Bill with the snip, puts Vegas up 2-1 in the series. A few interesting things in this series. And as I mentioned, all 4 of the playoff series going on in the second round, boy, they're all fun to watch. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of interest in all of them. Some a little more so than others, some for not necessarily the right reasons, and we'll get into that as well. But it was it turned into a close game. It was a close game, and then it wasn't, and then it turned into a close game again between the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights. And it's funny that both teams scored goals in fairly quick succession. Vegas, bang, bang, a couple of quick ones in the second period, and they look to have control. But I give the Sharks credit for managing to find a way to fight back and draw even in the third period of the game. They had chances to win, too, and it could have been them that was up 2-1 in the series. Logan Couture maybe still seeing the glove of Marc-Andre Fleury as he snatched the puck out of the air, preventing it from going in the back of the net. As I thought, with game number 3 of this series, Evander Kane, who missed the second game because of a suspension, did have an impact. He scored one of the 2 goals that was necessary for the Sharks to tie the game up in the third period. And then, I don't know how many times you've seen it, but the game-winning goal from William Karlsson, again, Wild Bill, if you prefer, don't know how many times you've seen it. The shot was spectacular. Absolutely fantastic. It was a rocket into the top of the net, but it was a defensive mistake that killed the Sharks in overtime and allowed Karlsson the way in and having the opportunity to make that shot, because the puck got turned over. And if you watch the defenseman on the play, Paul Martin leaves his side of the ice, moves towards the middle of the ice, and James Neal says, "Thank you very much. That's exactly what I was hoping you would do." And he slips the puck by him over to William Karlsson, who's building up a head of steam and headed for the San Jose blue line, moving up that side of the ice. And for the Sharks at that point, the chase is on as Brent Burns, who's trying to get back and switch sides with Paul Martin and keep Karlsson as close as he can to the outside boards, but he's got enough of an angle, and he just ripped that shot into the top of the net. Game over. As I mentioned, there has been a lot of overtime out west, and in this series, there has been a lot of overtime. Double OT in game 2, overtime game in game 3, and the significance of playing overtime in the playoffs, it's not a 5-minute 3-on-3. You go until you find a winner. A lot of overtime is a big deal, especially for players who are a little older, mature in their careers, if you prefer. The first 2 games, Paul Martin, defenseman for the San Jose Sharks, played a little over 10 minutes. Sharks laid an egg in the first game. That's fine, but it's double OT in the second game, another overtime game in game number 3, and Martin played a little over 15 minutes in game number 3. Because you've played a lot, you've got to use more of your bench. You've got to try to get other guys minutes. It brings about 2 things. Physical fatigue, of course, when you play an extra half game in game number 2, and then 2 days later, you're not playing just a full 60 minutes, but you're going to a 4th period again. It is both physical fatigue and it's mental fatigue. Paul Martin played a little over 15 minutes. There's the physical factor, but also the mental fatigue where you make bad choices, bad decisions, and this was one for Paul Martin. If he stays in his lane, stays on his side of the ice, keeps the play in front of him, even if James Neal passes the puck over to William Karlsson, he's still got the play in front of him, and he's got help to his right from Brent Burns, who's going to turn around and come back. Great shot, absolutely fantastic shot that beat Martin Jones. But if Paul Martin is in better position, he doesn't have the opportunity to have that same great shot. It's a much more difficult task. Latest from the Sharks is Evander Kane missed the morning skate. Not to be worried about. Body maintenance. Joakim Ryan looks like he's going to go in, though, in Paul Martin's spot. Jonas Donskoy also missing from the morning skate. He did not play in game number 3. Now, interestingly enough, Sharks head coach Peter DeBoer said nothing about the lineup for this contest in game number 4 against the Vegas Golden Knights. No word on the lineup at last check. Joe Thornton, as we have seen for the last little while, has been practicing with the team. He was at the morning skate. Also looked to be taking line rushes. No word from head coach Pete DeBoer on whether or not Joe Thornton was going to be in or anything to do with the lineup. Joe Thornton, with the usual smile on his face, has apparently said, "Oh, no, I'm not playing." However, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, players, coaches, and others aren't necessarily the most truthful at this time of year. Until I don't see Joe Thornton in the lineup, I'm saying there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, I'm saying there's a chance. At some point, he's going to come back. It's going to be an interesting decision when it does happen. Because this at times has been a very fast-paced series, and the Sharks' speed has gone up as the way they play has gone up this year. And Joe Thornton is not the fastest guy, never has been, but he's even when before he suffered his latest knee injury in the first half of this year, he looked pretty spry for an old fella. So being out though for almost half the season is going to be really difficult whenever the time comes if he's able to get back in the lineup. We'll wait and see what the story is in terms of the Vegas Golden Knights and their lineup. Tomas Tatar got in to game number 3, and I don't know if he'll stay in, but we'll wait and see. But a bunch of interesting stories as well from the games on Tuesday night. The Winnipeg Jets, Nashville Predators. What a wild, wild west series that has been. Winnipeg comes up with a giant 7-4 victory, a come-from-behind victory. And the other game, the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's the series that we have seen for the last 3 years. And I just looked down at my notes, and a couple of items that I wanted to discuss in the Washington and Pittsburgh series. And as I had to do a double take again, thinking I'm looking at notes from 2 days ago. Because what I see down on the page is Tom Wilson is involved in a controversial high hit on a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Say, weren't we just talking about this a couple of days ago, that this has sort of happened before with Tom Wilson? He's become the center of attention. It's becoming sort of a nightly occurrence in the hockey world that we're talking about Tom Wilson. It has already come down, word from the Department of Player Safety, that he is going to have a hearing for this hit. He's getting suspended for this one. And I think there's a few reasons why he's going to get suspended for this one. Some legit, Some you might shake your head at and wonder about, but I think he's getting suspended for this one. A couple of days ago, remember, sandwich style hit against Brian Dumoulin. Alex Ovechkin is coming the other direction. They kind of squish him in between. Dumoulin is in kind of a can't win position. Wilson hits him in the head as the principal points of contact, but there's no penalty on the play. There's no disciplinary hearing. And the Department of Player Safety puts out a 5-minute video with an explanation as to why there is no further discipline. And to their credit, good for them. I mean, I have long cried for more transparency in this Department of Player Safety. These the hearings that they hold and only putting out videos when discipline was offered to players. It's about time that we're getting explanations as to what is and what isn't illegal in the current standard of the rules. But last night, Tom Wilson lines up Zach Aston Reese and has an enormous, thunderous hit on him. Once again, there is head contact. Aston Reese has suffered a concussion. He has a broken jaw. He's going to require surgery, and there is a hearing for Tom Wilson. And that will have an impact on whether or not he will be suspended. He's getting suspended. Few things here. It's a shame that all this is dominating a lot of attention on this series. Because boy, oh boy, has it been fun to watch. Terrific matchup. Third straight year between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals. And so many questions and storylines going into the series. I know some were kind of frustrated that, oh, these two again, how come? But it's great theater. There's a lot of good stories that you want to see play out in this one. Are the Caps going to be able to knock off the Pens and keep them from getting to their third straight Stanley Cup? It's Braden Holtby, who certainly had his ups and downs this year, against Matt Murray, who had his own challenges this year. It's the Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin and that narrative that's been pushed forward for the last decade plus. Evgeny Malkin missed the first couple of games of the series. He got back in the lineup for game number 3. Carl Hagelin is still out. Now, in the game, Ovechkin scored an unbelievably skillful goal to win the game. There's just over a minute left in the third period, and Nick Backstrom and Ovi head toward the Pens goal on a 2-on-1. And Nick Backstrom, who so many say is a tremendous player but doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves. And if you were watching the end of the game last night, you understand why. No panic, complete calm, totally relaxed, and understands what his objective is. As he's headed toward the goal, he knows the best opportunity for a victory is to get the puck across to Alex Ovechkin, who is steaming toward the Penguins' net. Nick Backstrom, very calm, very relaxed. I don't think his pulse was above 40 at that point. Maneuvers the puck around a sliding defender, sends it beautifully to Alex Ovechkin out front, who tips the puck, but it goes off the post. Not to worry, though. Alex Ovechkin doesn't do a flyby, hasn't yet raised his arms into the air, signaling that it's a goal. He's in position and simply bats the puck out of the air into the back of the net. It is sensational to watch. It's a great series, but there is not enough credit of how good this series has been because of the big hits and the big nonsense. So go back to Tom Wilson. A couple of days ago, he is ruled to not be in violation of the law with the hit on Brian Dumoulin, because Dumoulin apparently changed his position significantly just prior to the impact, and that's why Wilson was allowed to skate. Last night, Zach Aston Reese is moving the puck forward, sees the hit coming, and then Tom Wilson hammers him. One angle looks like it's kind of shoulder on shoulder. The other is pretty clear that there's significant contact with his head, thus the resulting injuries. Broken jaw, concussion from the hard shoulder pads. That's a whole other story. Wilson also seems to move upward in his trajectory as he delivers the blow, and that's a no-no. Wilson's 6'4", Aston Reese is only 6 foot. It's relevant, but I don't think it gets Wilson off on the charges this time. Wilson is moving upward. It's not a clean shoulder hit. There is head contact. It's always a judgment call as to how much and what is the principal point of contact. And I will also say that the media and social media outcry is going to have an impact on this decision. Despite the fact the league will say doesn't weigh in on the decision, they base it strictly on the incident, I don't see how you can ignore it in this case. Part of the reason for the heightened level of hysteria is the heightened level of attention on the game, on the series. It's the playoffs. There's only a maximum of 2 games a night. Everybody is watching. Refs huddled, didn't see a rules violation, said play on. Series supervisor Paul Dvorsky, former referee, made those comments after the game, but that's an indication of a much larger issue. We'll see. I'll have more on this on our little Saturday podcast, which will be recorded and posted a little bit later on today. But it's going to be interesting to see what the punishment is. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. Haven't even touched on the other series from as well. The Winnipeg and Nashville series is something else. We'll dive into that and whatever else we can squeeze in. We'll have the lineups for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. There is a change in the Bruins lineup going forward for game number 3 in Boston tonight. We'll have that and much more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
It's a special pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis in advance of Tampa Bay, Boston. Coming up a little bit later on tonight, it's game number 3. The series is tied at 1 apiece. The late game, Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks. Interested to see whether or not there's any lineup changes there. We'll have the projected lineups for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. There is for sure one change in the Bruins lineup as we get set for game number 3, and the action shifts north to TD Garden in Boston. Should be a good one. I'm expecting it to be closer than certainly game 1. That was an anomaly, but we haven't seen home teams have such a dominant advantage as we have in previous years. In fact, it's 500 right now, home teams and road teams. It doesn't seem to be the same kind of advantage that it was. I don't know if that continues and projects out through the rest of the postseason. We still have 2+ rounds to go, but it's interesting that we've gone this far and there is no distinct advantage for home or away. And I mentioned just before the break that a couple of things. I have not seen the officials who are assigned to this evening's game between Tampa and Boston. We'll let you know about that, as well as the lineups for the Lightning and the Boston Bruins. But I'm interested to see what happens in the late game with Vegas and San Jose. If you watched the other game last night, the one we haven't talked about yet, Nashville and Winnipeg, it's another series like all of them in the second round. They are all living up to everybody's expectations. All 4 have been great. They've all been fun. They've all been exciting to watch. Notwithstanding some of the worst that we've seen as well. But it's been fun to watch all of these series, and this is why we enjoy this time of year so much. What a great game 3 between Winnipeg and Nashville. The atmosphere was just as electric as it was in Nashville. It has been in buildings, in both of these buildings in particular, all season long. It's been sensational. It's been a pleasure to watch. Absolutely must be amazing to be inside. I was watching on television and heard several times that you cannot believe the noise that was going on in here. Now, in Winnipeg, They didn't have any catfish prior to the start of the game, the way we have seen in Nashville. They didn't have any offensive linemen from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Canadian Football League team, guzzling beers prior to puck drop. But you know what they did have? They had the whiteout, 15,000 seats, give or take a few. And I think there was maybe 6 people that might not have had white on. Maybe a half a dozen Preds fans that snuck in and actually wore the colors. It was pretty cool. For the first time ever that I can recall, and you can only go so far in researching this, but for the first time ever that I can recall, before the game, they had a flyover with a number of aircraft, including a CF-18 from the Canadian Forces. Winnipeg, nice work. That's kicking it up a notch. I don't remember ever hearing or seeing a flyover before a hockey game or a playoff game. Now, at the Winter Classics and stuff, they do that, but this is playoff action. I have never seen a flyover occur before. But I'm loving it. It's great. This is the atmosphere. This is the excitement. This is the joy that's created at this time of year, and it's a lot of fun. There was so much going on in this game too. Heading into game 3, I had a little bit of nervousness about Predators goaltender Pekka Rinne. I know, right? He's going to win the Vezina Trophy, and I'm a little anxious about him going into game number 3. He's going to win the Vezina Trophy, but I'm nervous about what I might see from Pekka Rinne going into this game against the Winnipeg Jets. But that's because of what the Jets have done in the first 2 games. Their pressure has been relentless at times, coming back and tying the game in game number 2 before losing, and they have scored a lot of goals on Pekka Rinne. That's the reason for some of my trepidation. Been a lot of goals go in, and they haven't all been good goals. Some of them have had a bit of a stench to them. So what happens, of course, as I'm watching this game and thinking, I don't know, what's Pekka Rinne going to do in that unbelievable atmosphere in Winnipeg and the whiteout and everything? So what happens, of course? Connor Hellebuck gets ripped for 3 in the first period, and 2 of them were pretty stinky. So this whole boisterous, electric, noisy, blow the roof off atmosphere, you could hear a pin drop after that. These are not the kind of goals that you want to see going in during the playoffs or any time of year. The Jets reverted to the Jets of a year ago. They were taking penalties. They were making poor choices and decisions. The goaltending wasn't helping. But that's okay. That's what intermissions are for. And come out in the second period, it's like a whole different game. A whole different team shows up. Winnipeg rolls up 4 on the Nashville Predators, and the Preds' heads are now spinning. Blake Wheeler was unbelievable in the game last night. Dustin Byfuglien, he is playing as well as he has ever played in the league. He also had the best post-game interview so far. This is the winner, mic drop. Brian Boucher, who is doing the post-game interview. Remember when there was the skate blade incident too with Tuukka Rask and Boston, and Brian Boucher is the guy who's interviewing him on the bench after Tampa wins, and Tuukka Rask says, "Frickin' skate blades," and Boucher and everybody kind of goes, "Okay, that's good that he said frickin'." Well, Big Buff dropped the S-bomb on Boucher during the interview. And he just smiled about it afterwards. He was summing up the first period, and he said, stuff happens. But he didn't say stuff, if you know what I mean. Byfuglien had 2 goals. Wheeler had 2 goals. Hellebuck reeled it back in and got it together. The Nashville Predators had some chances in the third period. They needed some saves from Hellebuck. He got himself together, and it was pretty good. This game was another example of some officiating calls that kind of make you look around to the people you're watching the game with and go, huh? Did I really see that? Is this really what's happening? Nashville just kind of let things spool out, and the Jets took advantage late in the game. Pecorine, remember, I had some nervousness about him. The eventual game winner goes in on the power play. He got a bit loopy. And later on, Adam Lowry kind of gave him a little tap with the stick, and Rene was playing the puck behind the net, and on the follow-through, lumberjacked Lowry and earned himself a nice slashing penalty. He became unfocused. Now, this was not the kind of concern and worry I had, but he lost his composure. He lost his focus on the game. And part of that was because the Jets scored their game winner, and one of the straps on Rene's mask had popped, and his mask wasn't secure. He was trying to get the referee's attention. Play was not halted. The puck went in. He didn't say much about it after the game. He didn't blame the loss on that, but it bothered him. It really bothered him, and you could tell. There was something that he was not quite right. Now I expect he will regain focus and come back. But this has been a great series. And again, home teams winning, visiting teams winning. It's level right now. I'm anxious to see. But this, like the other series, has the potential to go deep. I hope it goes 7. Hope it goes a long way. I want to see a lot more of this great playoff hockey. If it goes 7, we're going to get even more country stars singing the anthem too, and I'm okay with that as it moves back to Nashville. But it was it was quite the contest last night. And it will be this evening as well. Tampa Bay Lightning, Boston Bruins. Puck drop is shortly after 7 p.m. Eastern. The late game, Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks. That series is game 4. It is a 2-1 lead for the Vegas Golden Knights. William Karlsson with the overtime winner. We'll get you the lineups for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins, the projected lineups. There is for sure one change in the Boston lineup. We'll look at the other series and everything else that we can squeeze in before the bottom of the hour. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Looking for some interesting things to happen tonight in Boston. I think it's going to be a really good game. The lineups and much more when we return.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
It's a special pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, getting you set for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. Game number 3 of the series from TD Garden later on this evening. Puck drop shortly after 7 p.m. Series even at 1 game apiece, and I'm kind of curious. There's a couple of things I'm expecting, and undoubtedly we will see a bit of the unexpected in this game as well. We've seen it throughout the playoffs. The late game, Vegas and San Jose. The Golden Knights are up 2-1 in the series. We'll wait and see. There's a little game playing going on right now with Pete DeBoer, who wants to say nothing about his lineup. Joe Thornton has said, no, I'm not playing, with a twinkle in his eye, as he often does. Jonas Donskoy did not skate. He did not play in the last game as well. And Paul Martin will also be out of the lineup, it looks like, for the San Jose Sharks. Getting to the lines in the Tampa and Boston Bruins game, looks like pretty much status quo. Tampa will feature Miller, Stamkos, and Kucherov, who they desperately need to get some production from. 0 points in the first 2 games of the series. Palat, Point, and Johnson on the second line, who had a nice bounce-back game after some struggles in game number 1. Braden Point with a 4-point effort, an empty net goal, and 3 assists. Alex Killorn, Anthony Cirelli, and Yanni Gourde will be on the third line. Corey Conacher was taking his place at the morning skate because Yanni Gourde was making his way to Boston. His wife had a baby last night. Wife and baby Emma are doing well. Kunitz, Paquette, and Callahan make up the other line. Defense pairings: Hedman, Girardi, McDonough, Strawman, Coburn, and Sergachev. Andre Vasilevsky in goal. Mentioned that there is going to be a bit of a change to the Boston Bruins lineup, and I think that we should look at this change as how the game may start. We'll see if it continues. Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak, of course, on the top line. Jake DeBrusk, David Krejci, and Rick Nash on the second line. Jake DeBrusk has been really good. Danton Heinen, Riley Nash, and David Backes on the third line. The change comes on the fourth line with Tommy Wingels going in for Tim Schaller alongside Corrali and Achari. Bruce Cassidy suggesting, a little bit more of a physical player, a little more of a physical presence might be what's in order, and that's why Tommy Wingels is going in the lineup for the Boston Bruins. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that the Lightning don't want to get into. You don't want to be trying to trade hit for hit with the Boston Bruins. They're a more physical team by nature. Not saying that the Lightning is undersized and can't play and be physical when necessary, but it's a different kind of physical. It's a different kind of team, and you want to be playing to your strengths and not getting drawn into the style of game that the Boston Bruins may be wanting to dictate by having a more physical contest and inserting Tommy Wingels into the lineup. Defensive pairings, Chara, McAvoy, Krug and Miller, Grzelcyk, and McQuaid. Tuukka Rask gets the start in goal. Checked again, but have not been able to see the lineup of referees and linesmen who will be working the game tonight in Boston. We'll check with our friends at scoutingtherefs.com. They'll always have the latest. The other story that we'll be following, and haven't seen anything definitive on it yet, Tom Wilson is having a hearing with the Department of Player Safety for a hit that took place on Tuesday night in the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. This the second game in a row that we have seen Tom Wilson involved in a controversial hit. Brian Dumoulin, the victim the last time. It was Zach Aston Reese who was the victim on Tuesday night. He suffered a concussion and a broken jaw that will require surgery. Wilson will have the hearing. He's getting suspended this time for a couple of reasons. He got away with it from the Brian Dumoulin hit because we are told Dumoulin altered his position significantly and the head contact was unavoidable. That was not the case with Zach Aston Reese, who had the puck, saw the hit coming. The two players were moving toward each other and both braced for the hit. The other item that will work against Tom Wilson is that he was moving upward when he delivered the hit. And as you see, when the hit finishes, Tom Wilson lands on and half in the Washington Capitals bench. Is the head the principal point of contact? It's one of them. Is it where the majority of the check was delivered? Not so sure about that. It was significant head impact, but as the rules are currently written, that is allowed. Some head contact, and in certain cases, contact with the head as the principal point. And for all those who are suggesting, oh, they should ban all head hits, that's not the magic bullet cure-all either, because they will still occur. We'll have more on that on our Little Saturday podcast, which will be recorded and drop a little bit later on. For some more hockey talk, we'll be back with another pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis on Friday in advance of game number 4 of the series between the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Going to be an interesting one. Going to be a really interesting contest. Tampa's got to get some production out of that top line. 0 points so far in this series for Miller, Stamkos, and Kucherov. If Tampa's going to be victorious in the series, they've got to start getting production out of that top line. I'm not worried about it coming from the back end. Victor Hedman's been logging huge minutes. He's picked up a couple of assists. That's great. If you're moving the puck and giving your team an opportunity to get points, that's what I'm looking for. Plus, also being strong defensively. I'm not looking for them to score points, but JT Miller, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, that's where we've got to start seeing some production for the Tampa Bay Lightning to be successful. I would expect the start of the game to be a little more physically engaging. I think there will be a little more hitting involved at the start of the game with the shift from Tampa to Boston. Of course, the antics of Brad Marchand will be encouraged rather than vilified. There's unlikely to be signs that say things like, "Hey, rat, lick this," as there were at Amalie. I don't expect Tuukka Rask to be moving in the opposite direction of where the shot is coming from. I think he got fooled, but it's going to be an interesting game number 3. Enjoy it. As mentioned, we'll be back again with another pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis in advance of game number 4 coming up on Friday. Game number 3 set to go in a couple of hours, Tampa and Boston. Enjoy it. It'll be good.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.